This is James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And this is James Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com, and we both welcome you to another episode of The New World Next Week. We're going to get right into it with a post on MediaMonarchy.com under Drug War Updates, Money, Childcare Fronts, and more. 3 articles we're going to blast through very quickly, but they are all very important. The first from the Daily Mail: drug money saved banks from collapse. Drugs money saved some banks from collapse at the height of the global crisis, the United Nations Drug and Crime Chief claimed today. Antonio Maria Costa, head of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, told The Observer UK that there were signs that some banks were rescued by billions of dollars that originated from the drugs trade and other illegal activities. He was speaking in Vienna, and he explained how at the second half of 2008, lending was the banking system's main problem, if that may sound familiar to you today. The system was basically paralyzed because of the unwillingness of banks to lend money to one another, yada yada. He goes on to say he won't say or doesn't know which banks or which countries may have received the drugs money, but it's essentially money laundering. And one of the main points, in addition to a lot of the other contextual research information provided to you in the links here on MediaMonarchy.com, was going way back a couple of years ago to episode 5 of Richard Andrew Grove's late great 9/11 Synchronicity podcast, where episode 5 is called and is essentially all about Giuliani bank fraud and how drugs fund wars. This is important, but it's another case where we've talked about this a lot, and this shouldn't be a surprise to you that essentially our misleaders follow God, but their God is gold, oil, and drugs. The second story from the Journal Sentinel out of Wisconsin, and this is a great example of local investigative journalism. Drug dealers use child care as front. From jsonline.com, more than a dozen Wisconsin child care centers that reaped millions of dollars in state subsidies have had close ties to drug dealing operations, including big-time crime bosses. A Journal Sentinel investigation has found, and we add the link to their nearly 20-megabyte PDF download for you, so you can look at all their facts and stats. The newspaper identified 16 child care centers with recent connections to drug operations, and the number is likely much, much higher. The third story under this Drug War Updates on MediaMonarchy.com comes from the Christian Science Monitor. Marijuana and prescription drug use up among teens. A national study widely considered to be an important indicator of youth drug abuse showed progress with some drugs, but widespread problems with marijuana and prescription over-the-counter drugs. The study, compiled by the University of Michigan for the Federal National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA, found that 7 of the 10 drugs most abused by high school seniors are prescription or over-the-counter drugs acquired primarily from teens, friends, or relatives. James?
All right, well, as you say, nothing really surprising in that first story for sure. We know that drug money has been fueling and funding and sponsoring not only wars, but the banking industry itself. We know the head of the New York Stock Exchange went down to Colombia in 1999 to try to petition the drug lords to invest in America. And yeah, we know that drug money is used for this type of thing, so I guess nothing really surprising there. Let's move straight into story number 2. I guess we have some DNA-related story today.
We do. 2 quick bits, and these headlines were posted up to MediaMonarchy.com under a massive news purge. As I start to collapse under the weight of news, I sometimes just have to post up the headlines, but they are there for you. If we go to KXAN.com out of Austin, Texas, government taking newborn DNA samples, and it starts off with the sort of human angle. When Andrea Bellino was expecting her first child, she never dreamed his blood would become the focus of a federal lawsuit. Neither did the other families, who are also suing the state of Texas to protect the medical privacy of their children. Each year, more than 400,000 babies are born in Texas. State law mandates that before newborns leave the hospital, his or her heel will be pricked and 5 drops of blood are collected. 2 weeks later, their pediatrician collects another 5 drops of blood. The blood cards are submitted to the Texas Department of State Health Services as part of the newborn screening program. 1 or 2 drops are used to screen for a list of serious medical conditions. The parents aren't objecting to the screenings. They object to what the state is doing with the leftover blood samples, and the state basically says, oh, we're just doing research. Now, I don't have linked up, but I'm sure actually InfoWars, being based out of Austin, Texas, have probably been doing a lot of coverage on this story. So I would definitely probably point you in that direction. Interestingly enough, being the definition of below the fold, on this KXAN.com article, government taking newborn DNA samples, if you scroll all the way down, you also then have to hit a button that drops down and shows you the rest of the story, that shows you that in 2006 and 2007, then Senator Obama filed legislation that would create a national DNA database. The same bill was filed by Senator Patrick Kennedy in 2008. The bills required parental consent, but all three, at least at that point, fortunately, died in the Senate. James?
Wow, surprise, surprise. Interesting. Well, we do know that this has been a part of the agenda for quite a long time, and that this is not a new story, and we also know that this is not a Texas story specifically. This is across the United States and even around the world in different countries. This is going on. It has been going on for some time. I wrote an article about this several months ago, but I will probably be doing another episode of my podcast specifically about this issue coming up in the new year, so keep your eye out for that. And finally today...
One other thing, actually, I'm so sorry to interrupt you there, but there's a supplemental bit to this. As we mentioned, this isn't just about Texas. I want to point us to across the pond, at least for myself, on the Daily Mail out of the UK. Under their article, The DNA Snatchers, Police Arresting Innocents Just to Grab Genetic Details for Big Brother Database. The Human Genetics Commission, who I believe is speaking out against this, said the Big Brother tactic was creating a spiral of suspicion among the public. So from Texas to the UK, the agenda is pretty much the same across the board.
Right, it's happening with newborns around the world, and now they're starting the DNA databases for even people who are suspected of criminal activity, so there's definitely an agenda going on here, and people at home can think about what that agenda might include and why they're so desperate to have our DNA. But at any rate, let's move along to the final story, which has to do with some missing emails.
Yes, this is a blast from the past, and of course, the current puppets will always say, well, let's not investigate those previous puppets. We need to move forward and look ahead and blah, blah, blah. But returning to the great allgov.com, again, a site we've noted that I find more and more useful as time goes by, 22 million missing Bush White House emails found. 6 years after the problem was first discovered, computer experts have located 22 million emails that became lost during the Bush administration. The discovery followed lawsuits filed by Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, CREW, and the National Security Archive, which demanded the government locate the emails. Now, unfortunately, the electronic messages won't be available for years. However, due to the time it takes the National Archives to sort through and process the volume of information, Obama administration is continuing to search for additional days of missing emails from the Bush years. Former Bush White House spokesman Scott Stanzel said the 22 million emails were recovered while Bush was still in office and refuted conspiracy theories, claiming the administration had tried to hide communications, all concerning the Valerie Plame scandal. The National Security Archive is a research institute based at George Washington University in D.C., while CREW is a nonprofit, nonpartisan government watchdog. There is massive links and documentation and PDFs from CREW and from the National Security Archive. So again, we try and lay out the path for you that hopefully you guys can do the more investigation and research for yourself.
Yes, that's right, and there's certainly more investigation to be done here, because I think we know that maybe there may have been a chance that some of these files went missing on purpose, like back in 2007 when there was the office fire in Cheney's office that destroyed a number of documents. But I'm sure that's just a conspiracy theory.
Nothing to see here.
Exactly, just move along. Nothing to see. All right, excellent. Another 3 great stories. And James, let me ask you the question that everybody's thinking. When are we going to be getting some more episodes of Media Monarchy?
I've had people ask, and I've sort of said, I announced it at the end of episode 150. I've been traveling around, visiting family, taking a little bit of a break from doing the live show. As you'll notice, I've still posted massively to the website. Episode 151 is live January 1st, 2010.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you as always.
Thank you.